Did you actually bet the under?
Yeah. No one ever wants to say what they have. I just figured Purdue, all these big guys, would be a slow game.
Bruce Buffer, the voice of the Octagon, in this hand. Nate, in the cutoff, playing about $16,000 deep effective, raises it up from the cutoff with 8-4 spades. He's in there battling. Next, Aaron, in the small blind, calls with 6-3 of hearts. He's gambling. Next, Armenian Matt, in the big blind, calls with 10-4 offsuit. He's gambling. And Bruce Buffer calls in the third blind in the straddle with Queen 10 of clubs. He's not bluffing. Bruce Buffer, not Bruce Bluffer. Okay. Let's go to the flop.
Yeah, true.
Who's in the hand?
You and me and Bob.
I'll check.
Flop comes ace of clubs, jack of clubs, 3 of spades. Everyone has nothing except for Bruce Buffer with the royal flush draw. Checks to him. He opts to just check, which I think is fine. He was not the pre-flop raiser. And then Nate with the 8-4 spades, which is a backdoor flush draw and backdoor straight draw. It's halfway respectable. He bets $520. A little bit less than half pot. Look, in general, in very multi-way pots, you have to be very selective with your bluffs because you also have to be very selective with your value bets. If this was a heads-up pot, for example, Nate could bet almost his entire range on this ace-jack-3 board if he felt inclined, which allows him to bluff with, well, all of his potential bluffs. But when you're playing 4 ways, you don't get to bet with your thin-ish value hands like a jack or pocket 4s, right? You just need to check those and probably lose. So because of that, you don't get to bluff nearly as often. Now, in terms of hands I would like to bluff here, I don't think 8-4 spades is quite good enough. When you are choosing your bluffs in multi-way pots, you typically just want to be betting with the best bluffs first, like flush draws, straight draws, cards that have an overcard to your opponent's likely calling range, like a jack. So if you had something like Queen 4 spades, I think that'd be way more reasonable than the 8-4 spades. But look, whatever. We're playing at Hustler Casino Live. They get in there, they battle. Nate goes 520. Let's see what Bruce does with his combo draw. Bruce opts to just call, and I think this is reasonable. That said, raising is also perfectly fine. When you have a very good draw that lacks showdown value, high equity draw that lacks showdown value, raising is always viable because you're just not folding if you get re-raised, and also you're not going to win if you check it down and miss. So I think raising to something like 1,500 would be quite nice, but calling's fine too.
Bruce, by the way, does not have a pair, but he's got everything. I mean, Nate, by the way, might win this with 8-4, but Bruce can catch a 9. He can catch a king. He can catch a club. He can catch a queen. He can catch a 10. He doesn't have a pair, but he's still 50% to win the pot.
The turn is the 8 of hearts, giving Nate a pair. All right. Bruce checks again, and Nate bets 1,300, which I think is okay at this point. Notice the backdoor flush draws he could have all just got really, really bad to the point that you probably need to check and fold them. And again, in scenarios like this, you can start choosing some bluffs from hands that probably aren't good but have some equity, like middle pair or bottom pair. The question, though, becomes, will anyone at Hustler Casino Live fold an ace or a jack, which is what you're trying to get them to fold? And I don't know, maybe. If you think they'll fold an ace or a jack to a chunky turn bet, I don't mind it at all. Notice in this scenario, the pot was $1,860. He goes $1,300. I think if Bruce is sitting here with a jack, he'll probably let it go. If he had a weak ace, maybe he will. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. It's tough to say. But look, if you're going to bet the flop with the 8-4 spades, I think the turn bet is far more reasonable.
With his image, if he were to raise, I really think he'd get Nate even to fold a hand like ace-10. He's got such a good image. He has no idea how good a shape he's actually in here.
The other guys are just crying on the bench.
Yeah, and he just does make the call.
Ups and downs. Of
Question
sports.
is he ready to bluff at it if he misses? Does he need to? Let's see.
Bruce opts to just call the 1300 out of position, and kind of like on the flop, I would not mind raising. Now look, as the pot gets bigger and bigger in relation to your stack, you have to be a little bit more cautious raising with draws that may not be able to call if you face an all-in. And notice in this scenario, it is 50-50, but quite often Bruce is not going to have 50% equity in this scenario. He's going to have more like 35% equity or less, depending on exactly what his opponent has. So if he did raise in this scenario to something like 4,000, and then Nate just ripped it all in, as he may do with two pairs, sets, maybe even something like ace-king, who knows, Bruce is in a pretty bad spot. So while I think check raising the flop was a pretty strong play, I don't think you necessarily want to check raise it on the turn. That said, out of position with queen high, check raising is always viable because if you call and you miss on the river and it goes check, check, you just lose, which is a disaster. So for that reason, I think check raising the flop is probably ideal. But if I did find myself here on the turn, I'd probably go for the check raise as well, just like I would want to do with sets and strong two pair if I had them. Let's go to the river.
Isn't that called life?
The river
Yeah.
is a
but
king, and he's made the nuts.
to the nth degree in college sports, man.
Yep. You got the nuts, buddy. That kind of night.
I check.
Oh, nice check here.
River is the king of spades. It's time. Bruce has to make sure he has it. He cannot believe he literally has the nuts on the river. When you have a flush draw and a gut shot, you'd usually rather prefer to hit the gut shot if it's to the nuts. Then he casually, calmly says, I check. Before we move forward, though, what I want to know is, do you think checking is the right play in this situation? Do you think instead Bruce should have perhaps bet? And if so, how much? Take a second to think about it and let me know in the comment section down below what you think Bruce should have done in this scenario instead of casually looking at his cards and saying, I check. While you're down there, click the like and subscribe button for me, please. While there are certainly times to lead on the river when you improve to a very strong hand, this is not one of them. Because if you consider the range that Nate has, Nate's going to have a lot of very good made hands like ace-king, ace-jack, sets, random ace-x that can go for value again, and a lot of bluffs like busted flush draws, maybe backdoor straight draw that decided to continue bluffing, stuff like that. So if you are against a good made hand, you're going to get money in against that anyways. You don't care about getting value from an ace because a lot of aces are just going to bet. And if you are against nothing, you really want to give the nothing a chance to bluff. So this is a spot where the only play is to check. Now, I'm not sure if Bruce was Hollywooding or not with his, let me check back at my hand, let me say, I check. But in general, you want to make sure that whatever you're doing in spots like this is consistent because good players will see right through any sort of Hollywooding attempts. And as your opponents are better and better, those types of plays should be gone from your overall strategy. Maybe he's not Hollywooding. Maybe he does this all the time. I haven't studied Bruce Buffer poker content so much. So maybe he's being perfectly balanced. I don't know. But be careful with anything that may send off warning bells in your opponent's head. Let's see if Nate falls in the trap.
Really nice check. And Nate, might try to bet him off a jack. Nah, he gives up.
Oh, is that it?
That's it, just the nuts.
I was waiting for you to throw it out there, brother. I bet 2,000 you call me?
I don't beat anything when that king comes.
So you'd fold, right?
I was winning.
Bruce runs over the
Nice
game.
hand.
That's what we're gonna have to make a YouTube video. You just have to finish strong now.
Yeah, that is that's the headline. Bruce
Well, that's what I mean.
Buffer
Lose it all, and then they
runs
make, like,
over the
30, 40
game.
minutes.
I don't plan to.
All right.
I was a little bit scared that Nate would just blast it on this river, but he does not. He checks it back. He's shown the nuts. And Bruce Buffer scoops a nice pot. Thanks for watching.